Welcome to a special edition of Sound Off Extra here on the official YouTube channel for the Solomonster Sounds Off Wrestling Podcast, which drops each and every Sunday on the Solomonster.com, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, and iTunes. I am the Solomonster. This is your official Battleground 2015 review. A good show, not a great show, nothing blow away, but a good show. It had some pretty good wrestling on it, and the return of The Undertaker at the end of the show, costing Brock Lesnar the WWE Championship and seemingly setting up a match between Lesnar and The Undertaker at SummerSlam next month. We're going to get to all that. We may as well start with the pre-show. Kickoff show featured a Battle of the Crown, or for the Crown, or the Plunger, or whatever the hell it was for. I was barely paying attention. King Barrett and R-Truth. King Barrett got the win. I figured he would. They had to throw the guy a bone at some point. This guy is just... this poor bastard. He wins the King of the Ring and just falls off a cliff. He didn't have very far to fall, considering where he had been before that. But nonetheless, King Barrett got the win with the Bullhammer. He is still the King of the Ring. Where he goes from here, probably not very far. But for one night, at least, he got a win. Pay-per-view opened with Sheamus and Randy Orton. Randy Orton in his hometown of St. Louis got a monster reaction on this show. He was the hometown boy. Now, anybody who listens to the Sound Off knows I am not a fan of Sheamus and Randy Orton matches. They tend to have about as much chemistry as oil and water. They don't go together very well. I will say that this was a pretty good match. You know, some pretty good wrestling. It helped the fans were into it as much as they were because Orton was the hometown boy. So, a hot crowd can be infectious, and I think that kind of rubbed off on me as a viewer here, got me more invested in the match. So it was fine. It was fine for what it was, and Orton got the clean win with the RKO in the end. So Sheamus continuing the long storied tradition of Money in the Bank briefcase winners who don't do too well after winning said Money in the Bank briefcase. I guess you could say the same thing about King of the Ring winners as well. The Primetime Players retained the Tag Team Championship over the New Day. I am a fan of Xavier Woods. I like Xavier. I like his new gaming channel on YouTube. I'm a New Day fan now. I wasn't before, but I am now. That being said, this guy was annoying as shit during this match, which I guess was the point. He was only doing his job. I guess he was doing a very good job at it. I was longing for the days of Jimmy Hart's megaphone. That's how annoying he was at one point. I almost muted the sound because he wouldn't shut up. Primetime Players get the win in the end. Titus O'Neil with the Clash of the Titus Spinebuster into the pin. So the Primetime Players, still the Tag Team Champions. I figured the New Day would get the belts back. I was kind of surprised when they took the belts off them at Money in the Bank. I thought there was more mileage in them. I guess they felt differently. It's not like I have a problem with the Primetime Players being the champs. I'm happy to see them getting an opportunity, so I'm fine with that. We had Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, one-on-one. Here's what I'll say about this match. It really picked up nicely in the end. I thought it was just very plotting and slow and dull for the first half, and the last quarter to half of the match, it picked up. One thing I noticed in this match, and really on the entire show, was this great number of apron moves, like slams on the apron, suplexes on the apron, clotheslines on the apron being the hardest part of the ring to fall on because there's no give. I don't know if it was just me. I don't know if there was some kind of directive. If everybody got together and said, hey, let's all slam each other on the apron. I don't know, but I noticed that a lot in this match too. So it did pick up at the end. The crowd started to get into it a little bit more. I look at these two guys, and I said this on the podcast earlier today. I look at these two guys as being the guys that are going to help carry this company in the future. I think Bray Wyatt as a babyface, but these two are going to be around for a long time, and they're going to be two of the biggest stars in the company. So it's kind of cool to see them going one-on-one now. I will say one thing that struck me during this match, and I tweeted this out. I really do miss the Shield and the Wyatt family, and I thought back to that first six-man tag they had at Elimination Chamber last year, and just how amped up that crowd was. And before the match even started, they're chanting, "This is awesome." And it carried over into the rematch they had about a month or two later. So I miss those days. It's not quite the same now, but at the end of the match, we got a little bit of that back. Eric Rowan is out with an injury, and so poor Luke Harper has kind of been left out in the cold with nothing to do. Luke Harper came out in a hoodie to disguise himself, which it's kind of silly to look back on now. It's not like, well, what was the point, right? When the match ended, he took the hoodie off and, hey, it's Luke Harper. Like, who gives a shit? Just show up as Luke Harper and, throw Roman Reigns into the post. But he was hiding his identity, and he threw Roman into the ring. Sister Abigail, Bray Wyatt, gets the pin, and the mystery man comes in and de-hoods himself, and it was, in fact, Luke Harper. So at least half the Wyatt family, or three-quarters or whatever, back together now, which is the right thing to do. I mean, Luke Harper deserves a lot better. They never should have broken those guys up in the first place. It was a fucking brain-dead move on their part. So I'm happy to see the two of them back together, and we'll see what the next chapter is. I thought, this was obviously going to be the first match of many. I'm sure the big rematch will be at SummerSlam. I don't know if it'll just be, Bray and Roman, or if they're going to try to have Roman find a partner. I guess Dean Ambrose would be the one who makes the most sense. But we'll see where it goes from here. We had Sasha Banks, Charlotte, and Brie Bella. We had one representative from each of the three threesomes that we now have on the roster. It turned into a good match. They gave it a lot of time to. About 11 and a half minutes this thing went. Would have been a much better match without Brie Bella. I think that goes without saying. The parts where it was down to Sasha and Charlotte, I really enjoyed. The stuff with Brie, she tried. It wasn't particularly good. I mean, she did have one pretty cool-looking missile dropkick during the match. Otherwise, I could have done without her being in there. The crowd was even chanting for Becky Lynch at one point, who was on the outside and was not part of the match. Charlotte got the win with the figure eight on Brie. Brie tapped out. Again, it turned into a pretty nice match there at the end, and hopefully we'll see more of this. 11 and a half minutes. That's a hell of a lot better than what they normally give these women. And maybe working with Brie Bella, maybe the NXT girls will start to rub off on the other girls. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not saying that to, insinuate that all the women on the roster now are no good. I mean, some of them are not that good. But what I mean is there's a huge buzz around NXT right now. And there's a huge buzz around the NXT women. And now it's turned into a whole angle. Oh, the Divas Revolution, all this other stuff. Hopefully that excitement that people have to see Charlotte and Becky and Sasha and all the new faces will motivate the other women to kind of step up their game and bust out moves we haven't seen before and just, I don't know, I feel like they've been treading water for so long. It's very easy to just kind of, I don't know, you're not motivated, you're just kind of there, you get 2 minutes every week. What is there to be motivated about? They got 11 and a half minutes of what turned into a pretty damn good match there at the end, so I want to see more of that. This was a good start, and I was happy to see Charlotte get the win. I thought for sure they'd put the Bellas over, in that first match, but they didn't. They put the new girl over, and that was very cool to see. We had John Cena and Kevin Owens. Well, at least we had the new girl going over in the previous match. Not so much in this one. I will say this was a really good match. It really was not all that different from the previous two matches we've seen them have. It wasn't. I wouldn't even say it was the best match they've had. I liked the other ones better, especially the Money in the Bank match. But they went out there and they busted their ass. John Cena busted out a whole bunch of different moves. He has his little half Canadian destroyer thing that he does, and he busted out a Hurricane Rana, countering the pop-up powerbomb at one point during the match. Kevin Owens is awesome. He's always fun to watch in there. And in the end, and this is the problem I had with this match, it wasn't the fact that John Cena won, right? I see people on Twitter, LOL, Cena wins. When I did the predictions on the Sound Off earlier today for this pay-per-view, I predicted that John Cena would retain the U.S. title. Kevin Owens would win by DQ. I figured they would send Rusev or Cesaro out there to cost him the match because Kevin Owens has been costing everybody else their championship matches over the last few weeks. So, and those other guys weren't even on the show. So why not have them run in and kind of give Owens a taste of his own medicine, maybe set up a four-way for SummerSlam? They didn't do that. Instead, they gave us a clean finish, which I appreciate. That's cool. I would have rather this match ended on the attitude adjustment that he gave Owens off the top rope. There were so many near falls in this. It was a classic Cena-Kevin Owens match. Near fall after near fall, kick out after kick out, and maybe one too many kick outs there at the end. If that was the way they were going to end this match, by having Kevin Owens tap out to the STF, I would have much rather them just let Cena pin the guy after that AA off the top. I just was not a fan of this finish at all. And again, it has nothing to do with Cena winning. That's cool. I didn't expect Owens to win the championship. But I look at this finish, having Kevin Owens tap out to John Cena in a shitty submission move. This has got to be the most god-awful submission in the entire company. We just saw a women's match just before this one with women, with divas, who have more devastating-looking submission holds than John Cena does. And I'm not hating on John Cena. I am not a John Cena hater. I'm hating on this finish because the move sucks. It's just a terrible-looking move. And of all things, to have Kevin Owens tap out, Kevin Owens, of course, is the number one contender for the NXT Championship in a month. He's going to this big show in Brooklyn to face Finn Balor in that big rematch. Why you would have Kevin Owens tap clean here to that move to John Cena is beyond me. And I know everybody else has tapped. So what makes Kevin Owens so special? Randy Orton has tapped. Batista has tapped. Triple H has tapped. I know everybody has. Doesn't make the move any less crappy. The move is shit. And this finish was shit. The match wasn't. Pretty good match. Under normal circumstances, I'd say, hey, we got a clean finish, right? We sure as hell didn't get a clean finish in the main event, which I'm going to get to in a second. But of all the finishes to go with for this match, that's the one they went with. And so now I guess, Kevin Owens can go back to NXT and challenge for the NXT Championship in a month. I just don't understand the logic behind this at all. I don't know. It didn't ruin the match for me, but the ending sucked, and it took it down a few notches. They sent The Miz out there to kill time. We still went off the air 15 minutes early, even with this. This was completely unnecessary. Ryback has a staph infection. They had no Intercontinental title match, so they sent Miz out there to cut a promo on Big Show. Big Show came out wearing, I think he was wearing a polo shirt and dress slacks and shoes, sauntered on down to the ring, stepped inside, knocked out Miz with the KO punch, and walked right back down the aisle to the back. It's not bad. All in a day's work, I guess, right? The guy gets paid all the same, no matter what. That's not a bad day at the office. Main event was Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. If you have listened to the Sound Off over the last few months, I've said many times that I was very much looking forward to this match. They had to do this match. They had to do it. I figured it would be at SummerSlam. They decided to do it a month early. Fine, no problem. I thought that Rollins could give Brock Lesnar a hell of a match. He could bump around for him, and he did. 13 suplexes, not all Germans. 13 suplexes during this match. He bounced Seth Rollins around the ring like a rubber ball. Seth Rollins did get some offense in. He went after the legs and the knees at one point, but for the most part, this was just a complete destruction. It was very similar to the match that Brock had with Cena at SummerSlam last year, which was a lot of fun to watch. And then all of a sudden, he has Rollins up for an F5, hits the F5, seemingly has the match won. We hear a gong, and the lights go out, the place goes nuts, and we hear another gong, and the lights come on, and Seth Rollins is nowhere to be found, and the referee is nowhere to be found. And we see the Undertaker standing in the ring, very hairy, a very hairy Undertaker. Not on his head either, just on his body. Standing there with a mean look on his face. Brock Lesnar is stunned, he can't believe it. And Undertaker goes to chokeslam him. Brock counters that into an F5, which Undertaker slips out of. He delivers a high chokeslam to Brock Lesnar and then lays him out with a tombstone pile driver. Gives him a second tombstone pile driver as the exclamation point. People started chanting one more time. Undertaker said, fuck off with that. He posed, and he left. And that's how the pay-per-view went off the air, 15 minutes early, with no finish to the championship match. Now, I'm sure they'll come on TV tomorrow night. They'll say, maybe they won't, because they don't pay attention to detail in this company. They don't give a crap. But I assume it'll go down as a DQ. They could have at least rang the frickin' bell. They could have announced it. They could have had Rollins, once Undertaker bailed, kind of sneak back out and pose with the championship. If they didn't want him to pin Lesnar, and I don't really think it would have mattered, because even if you would have pinned Lesnar, there would have, it's a cheap win. But okay, fine. They don't want him to pin Brock's shoulders to the mat. Cool. I get that. For him to just disappear in thin air like poof, like a magic trick, and you go off the air early with that kind of finish, no finish at all, no bell, no nothing, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't complain about the finish, because I sat here not a full 2 years ago, but almost 2 years ago when they had the very first Battleground pay-per-view in 2013. And if you remember, they had a main event. I'm pretty sure it was Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And the Big Show knocked out both guys, and that's how they went off the air. No announcement, no finish, no nothing. And that was actually on pay-per-view. That wasn't even on the network. It was a shit finish to what I remember being a shit show. This was 2 years ago. You don't end a pay-per-view like that. I don't care if it's on the network or not. And they can get away with that now because, hey, it's $9.99. So, suck it up. Deal with it. But to me, that's not how you go off the air. I guess to them, it was the attraction of seeing The Undertaker. I mean, look, the crowd in St. Louis didn't seem to mind. They were going nuts. They were chanting for The Undertaker. Let me just say this. It was cool to see The Undertaker. I don't have a problem with The Undertaker coming back. Seeing him, he's a special attraction. We don't get to see him during the off months, after WrestleMania. So it's cool. It's cool to see The Undertaker. I didn't hate seeing him. I just hated the way they went off the air here. I thought it was just anticlimactic. I was looking forward to this match for a long time, so I know that's me. Not everybody was. And I'm not just making that up. Again, I've said this on the show before. They have to do this match. I want to see them do this match. I think they can go out there, they could tear the house down, have a really cool match. Kind of the way that Lesnar and Punk did at SummerSlam a few years ago. And it wasn't a total mass destruction. I mean, Brock did, beat the crap out of him, but then, it was pretty even-handed there, and then Brock got the win. I thought Rollins could have that same kind of match with Lesnar, and it was all really just an angle, I guess, more than anything else. It wasn't really a match. It was more of an angle just to set the return up of The Undertaker. The way they did that, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And so now they have seemingly set up a match between The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar for SummerSlam. Not a match I wanted to see. I just don't see the need for it. It looks like they're going to do it anyway. Fine. That's the direction they want to go in. For the people who I see on Twitter, I'm looking at my timeline just completely blowing up right now. It's with a mix of people who you either love the show or hated the show. There doesn't seem to be a lot of in between from what I'm seeing here. But there are people complaining, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Undertaker came back at WrestleMania. He wrestled Bray Wyatt. Didn't seem very concerned about Brock Lesnar. All of a sudden, a year and a half later, he's concerned. I get that. But I'm willing to give them a pass because of the angle they did last week. Right? I mean, and we talked about this on Sound Off 392 earlier today. You had Brock Lesnar go out there. He broke Kane's ankle. Even though Rollins kind of gave Kane a little boot there on his way out of Raw last week, too. You would think Undertaker would go after Rollins, although I guess Rollins just vanished into thin air. Somebody should check on him and make sure he's okay. But we saw Brock, break this guy's brother's ankle. And Kane talked about having this great plan. Seth Rollins didn't give it a chance to really unfold. Rollins is at the end of Raw last week telling Kane, that's your great plan, this big contract signing, you big dummy. And one of our listeners wrote in and said, hey, what if Kane's plan was The Undertaker? And Seth Rollins just kind of jumped the gun, right? He didn't give the plan a chance to develop. And then Brock went and he broke Kane's ankle. So The Undertaker is back, not even so much for what happened at WrestleMania last year, although I'm sure that's part of it, but he's back because this fucker laid up his brother. And his manager is going around on television every week still crowing about how he beat the streak. So all these things, and Undertaker's like, yeah, I don't think so. And so he comes back and he lays out Brock Lesnar, and he cost Brock Lesnar the championship like Lesnar cost him his streak. So it does kind of make sense. Even though I'm not saying those people are wrong, it's true. I mean, Undertaker came back at WrestleMania. He could have gone after Lesnar in April if he wanted to, but he opted not to. But I'm not going to get bent out of shape about that because I assume this all connects back to the storyline we had last week with Kane. So, it does make sense. And we'll see what kind of match they can have. I tend to like the Brock Lesnar matches where he can go in there with a smaller guy, who can bounce around and bump around for him and take the suplexes and kind of run around and keep up at his pace. Because Brock, Brock's a big dude, but Brock's got a lot of stamina. Brock can outrun you. He can outrun a guy half his size, right? He can move around pretty good. The matches that Brock would have, let's say, with a guy like Kane or a guy like The Undertaker, I don't know. They tend to not be nearly as fun. And having a guy like Undertaker, who's a bigger guy, an older guy, a slower guy, so it's a slower pace, and The Undertaker his body is just beaten to shit. The Undertaker's not going in there and taking 10 German suplexes from... I don't want to see The Undertaker take 10 German suplexes from Brock. I'd almost feel guilty. To me, those Brock Lesnar matches, they're not as fun. I mean, Brock Lesnar can go in there and have a boring freaking match, or he can go in there and have a great match. It depends on the opponent. That's one of the main reasons why I really didn't have any desire to see this big rematch. I mean, were there people clamoring for a big Undertaker rematch with Brock Lesnar? I mean, I don't know too many people who were. It'll be a big attraction for SummerSlam. I know why they're doing it. Ratings are in the toilet, and they want to get something going here. Fine, I don't blame them for that. I just don't see the need to do this match. I'm very curious what finish that match is going to have. Would they have Brock beat The Undertaker twice? And if not, if Undertaker beats Brock, it just completely negates the WrestleMania win last year. At least Brock had that. That was a big deal. To this day, Paul Heyman comes out and crows about that. Why take that away from the guy? But we'll see. We'll let the story unfold. We'll see where it goes. It's kind of cool to have The Undertaker back, not for WrestleMania. I don't think The Undertaker made a single appearance on television in the build-up to WrestleMania this year. He just kind of showed up at the pay-per-view. And now I presume he'll be back on TV, at least tomorrow night, or some of the weeks. We still got 5 weeks between now and SummerSlam. We'll see. It was very interesting. Brock's been a babyface the last several months. The fans turned him babyface. It's not anything that Brock did. And he went into this match as a babyface, Suplex City chants, Lesnar chants. Undertaker comes back. I didn't hear too many boos. I mean, there may have been people booing him, but for the most part, he got raucous cheers. So is Brock now going to be back to being a heel? Are they going to position The Undertaker almost as a heel? I would be stunned if they did that. I'm more interested to see how they handle that and how the fans react to these two guys, who they boo and who they cheer. It's going to be very hard, I think, for people to boo The Undertaker, so I'm just going to assume that Heyman and Lesnar are going to be back in the heel role. So we'll see, but that was the pay-per-view. Good show overall, some real good wrestling. Very disappointing finish to the Owens Cena match, and very unproductive. I think that was the wrong finish for that match. And The Undertaker is back. So those are the news and notes coming out of the show. You can check out full episodes of the Solomonster Sounds Off podcast. Again, they drop each and every Sunday on the Solomonster.com, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. You can subscribe in iTunes. This weekend coming up will be episode 393 on our March to 400. So please, if you've never checked out a full episode of the show, give it a shot. I think you may like it. You can follow me on Twitter at Solomonster. And if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button on this channel. So that way, when a new video like this one goes up unannounced, you will be the first to know about it. I have not been able to get a new video up on this channel in quite some time. Life stuff, work stuff has gotten in the way, but I do hope to get some more material up more frequently. So again, please do subscribe, and we will be back very soon with more content. So until then, be well, stay safe. Thank you for tuning in to this Battleground 2015 review. We'll see you this weekend for a new episode of The Sound Off. Until then, take care, guys.